My name is Riley Hartman. I'm 38 years old, and 3 years ago, I thought silence was a sign of peace. Turns out it was the sound of a marriage dying slowly. It's strange the moment you realize you've stopped being heard. It doesn't come with shouting or slammed doors. It comes with a sigh, a quick glance at a phone while you're talking about something that's breaking your heart. For me, that moment happened on a Tuesday night in early spring. The house was quiet except for the hum of the fridge and the sound of rain brushing against the windows. Stephen was lying beside me, scrolling through his phone. I turned to him and said quietly, "Mom's doctor called today. They think her memory loss is getting worse." He didn't look up. That's rough. I waited. Nothing more. They're recommending a long-term care plan. I continued, "But I don't know how we're going to afford it. Not after the layoff." That's when he groaned. The sound was small but sharp, like a blade scraping glass. "Riley, can we not do this right now? It's late." I stared at him, feeling that old ache rising again. The same ache that started when Dad died, when my sister was killed in that car accident, when I'd reach out to him just to feel like I wasn't alone. And every time he'd tell me I was being too heavy. But this time something was different. His face twisted with irritation. He picked up his phone and started typing furiously. "What are you doing?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. He didn't answer, just turned the screen toward me. The message said, "I'm not your therapist. Stop trauma dumping on me." And then before I could even process the words, he hit send. My phone resting on the nightstand buzzed once. He lay back, folded his arms. There he said, "Now it's in writing. I need you to respect that boundary." For a long second, I didn't move, didn't blink. The room seemed to shrink until all I could hear was my own heartbeat. Then something inside me just flipped. I looked at him, at the man I'd spent 11 years married to, the man who once cried with me when we lost our first child, who promised for better or worse. And I realized he wasn't listening anymore. Maybe he hadn't been for a long time. "You're absolutely right," I said. He blinked, surprised. "Really?" "Yeah," I said softly. "You're not my therapist." He smiled, a relieved little smirk that made my skin crawl. "See, this is healthier for both of us. You'll feel better when you talk to someone professional." Then he kissed my cheek like he'd just solved a puzzle and turned off his lamp. I lay there in the dark, the glow from my phone still lighting the words that had just ended something sacred. "Stop trauma dumping on me." I read it again and again until the words stopped burning and just felt cold. I didn't cry that night. I didn't even argue. I just watched him sleep peacefully, like nothing had changed, and decided that from now on, I'd stop explaining myself to someone who'd already stopped caring. The next morning, I woke up early, made breakfast for the kids, packed lunches, smiled like everything was fine. Stephen walked in, kissed my head, and said, "Thanks for understanding last night. I really appreciate it." "Of course," I said. He left for work. The moment the front door shut, I exhaled like I'd been holding my breath for years. Then I sat at the kitchen table, opened my laptop, and searched therapists near me, accepts insurance. That's how I found Dr. Keller. Her profile photo showed an older woman with silver-streaked hair and kind eyes. She'd been practicing for 30 years. First available appointment Thursday, 3:00 p.m. I clicked book. That night, Stephen came home humming cheerful for the first time in months. He poured himself wine and said, "You seem calmer." "I am," I said, slicing vegetables for dinner. "See, setting boundaries works." I smiled faintly. Yeah, boundaries. He didn't notice the way my hand trembled slightly when I set the knife down. Or maybe he did and didn't care. Later that evening, while he showered, I scrolled back through our old texts. Years of messages, funny memes, birthday reminders, plans for vacations that never happened. And then the shift, subtle at first. "Can we not do this right now? You're overthinking again. You should talk to someone about that." Every reply was a door slowly closing. I realized that I'd been living in a house full of echoes of the woman I used to be, the marriage. I thought I had the voice I stopped using because it made him uncomfortable. When Stephen came out of the bathroom, I pretended to be asleep. He slid into bed beside me, the smell of his cologne sharp and unfamiliar. He whispered, "Love you like muscle memory, not meaning." And I lay there, eyes open, thinking, if love feels like silence, maybe it's not love anymore. The next day, I went to my appointment with Dr. Keller. The waiting room was warm and quiet sunlight spilling across the bookshelves. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. When she called my name, her voice was gentle, Riley. I followed her into an office that smelled faintly of lavender and paper. So she said, settling into her chair, "What brings you here today?" I laughed, but it came out as a broken sound. "My husband told me I'm not his therapist." She studied me for a moment, then said, And how did that make you feel? For the first time in years, I let the truth out. Like I'm married to someone who doesn't see me anymore. Like my feelings are noise. Dr. Keller nodded, scribbling something in her notebook. Then let's start by helping you remember what your voice sounds like again. Something in me cracked open quiet, trembling, but alive. As I left her office that afternoon, I noticed the city felt different. Brighter somehow. The air smelled like rain again, but softer this time. When I got home, Stephen was already on the couch watching TV. He glanced up, briefly smiled. "How was your day?" "Good," I said. "Therapy." "Yeah." "Great," he said, turning back to the screen. "See, I told you that's what you needed." I went upstairs, shut the door, and stared at my reflection in the mirror. He thought I'd gone to therapy to fix myself, but something told me therapy was going to fix something else entirely, my sight. Because when you finally start looking closely, you see the things you were never meant to see. Dr. Keller's office became my weekly refuge, a small, sunlit space that smelled faintly of peppermint tea and old paper. The first few sessions were like opening a locked drawer. Every time she asked, "How did that make you feel?" something buried inside me would stir, stretch, and finally breathe. By the third week, I wasn't crying anymore. I was observing. Dr. Keller noticed. "You're calmer," she said. "But your calm feels like someone standing very still in a burning house." That line stayed with me. I started to realize my stillness wasn't peace, it was exhaustion. I'd been the caretaker of everyone's emotions but my own, the kids, my mother's doctors, Stephen's fragile ego. And the more I gave, the less of me was left. One day, Dr. Keller leaned forward. "Riley, who handles your family's finances, Stephen," I said automatically. "He's better with numbers. Better or more controlling?" I blinked. "I don't know. I've just never asked." She smiled gently, like she'd seen this story before. "For next time, I'd like you to look over your household accounts. Not to start a fight, just to understand where you stand." That night, I sat at my laptop after everyone was asleep. The house was quiet again, but this time it didn't feel peaceful. It felt like surveillance, the hum of secrets hiding in plain sight. I logged into our joint savings account. Balance $3,256. That couldn't be right. A year ago, we'd had almost $50,000. Stephen had gotten a bonus, I remembered him saying. He'd wanted to invest some of it. Then I checked the credit cards. 3 of them. One I didn't even recognize, all nearly maxed out. And then the line of credit, $30,000 withdrawn against it. My chest tightened. But the real blow came when I opened Stephen's personal checking account. It wasn't hard. The passwords were still saved from when we used to trust each other. Regular deposits, bi-weekly, each labeled consulting payment, M. Turner. Monica Turner. That name wasn't just familiar, it was carved into the back of my mind. She worked with Stephen at his firm, the one he claimed to barely tolerate, the one he'd told me was annoying but harmless. I scrolled through the statements numb. The payments had started 15 months ago, right around the time Stephen began working late. The next morning over coffee, I asked casually, "Hey, did your company start some kind of side consulting thing?" He looked up, eyebrows knitted. "What, no, why?" "Just curious, you mentioned something about new clients last year." He hesitated. A flicker. Quick, but there. "Oh yeah, that's through the firm. Why?" "No reason," I said, smiling. He kissed my cheek on his way out. His lips were warm. My skin went cold. That afternoon in therapy, I told Dr. Keller everything. She didn't react right away, just tapped her pen lightly on her notepad. "What are you feeling right now?" "Like I can't breathe, like I've been erased." "Then let's start writing you back in." That night, I created a folder on my laptop titled Budget Review. Inside it, I began saving screenshots, statements, everything. Not because I was planning to confront him, not yet, but because I needed to see it. Because for the first time, I realized I'd been living in a story Stephen was writing for me. And I was finally learning how to read the fine print. 2 weeks later, something shifted. Stephen started dressing better. Ironed shirts, cologne I didn't recognize. Hair trimmed neatly. He'd hum while shaving, checking his phone between strokes. When I asked if he wanted to have dinner together one night, he said, "Sorry, babe. I promised Monica I'd help with a presentation." He said her name like it was nothing, like she was just another colleague. I smiled and said, "Of course, work comes first." He didn't see the way my hand gripped the counter until my knuckles turned white. At therapy that week, Dr. Keller looked me dead in the eye and said, "Riley, people who weaponize emotional boundaries usually have something to hide. And the ones who silence you the most, they're terrified of being seen." I nodded, but my voice was small. "So what do I do?" "You don't accuse, you document, you prepare, you protect yourself quietly." That night, I sat in the dark with my laptop open, scrolling through Monica's social media. She'd recently posted a photo from a hotel room, glass windows, overlooking downtown lights. I recognized the reflection of a painting in the background. The same one I'd seen on a receipt Stephen brought home last month. Work dinner, he'd said. But the hotel logo on the napkin in the corner of Monica's photo, same as the one on that receipt. I stared at the screen until my eyes burned. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel weak for crying. I felt furious. Not at the affair itself, but at how long I'd been kept small, quiet, reasonable. The next morning, Stephen told me all smiles. "You seem lighter lately. Therapy must be helping." I looked him straight in the eye. "It really is," I said. He grinned, kissed my forehead. "That's my girl." I smiled back. "Yes," I whispered as he walked out the door. "I guess I still am." But inside, something different had taken root. Not rage, not sorrow. Clarity. And clarity, I was learning, can be dangerous. Because once you start seeing the truth, it's impossible to unsee it. The thing about finding the truth is it doesn't explode all at once. It unravels thread by thread until one day you're standing in a room full of strings, realizing how everything connects. That's what my life became after that night. I didn't confront Stephen. Not yet. Instead, I did what Dr. Keller told me: document everything. Every receipt, every late-night text vibration from his phone, every half-lie disguised as casual conversation. He'd smile and say, "You're getting better not knowing." I was taking notes about his tone, his words, his absence. It became almost scientific watching him. He'd started going to a new gym, closer to the office, even though our neighborhood one was 5 minutes away. His work dinners got longer, his phone quieter. At night, while he slept, I'd lie awake counting patterns. His credit card transactions, the dates of those consulting deposits, the gaps in his schedule. Each number felt like a confession. One evening during therapy, Dr. Keller handed me a small notebook. "Write everything here," she said. "But not just what he does write, how it makes you feel. That's your evidence, too." I opened to the first page, wrote the date. Then, tonight he laughed while texting someone. I asked what was funny. He said it was a meme from work. When I asked to see, he said you wouldn't get it. That night I dreamed I was screaming underwater. Weeks passed and Stephen's consulting project flourished. He was happier, sharper almost, lighter. He bought new clothes, new shoes, even started wearing cologne that smelled faintly of cedar and citrus, something I'd never picked for him. When I mentioned it, he said, "Oh, Monica recommended it. She's got great taste. You'd like her." He said it without guilt, without even realizing how cruel it sounded. I smiled. I bet I would. And I meant it because I'd already started learning everything about her. Monica Turner, 34. Marketing consultant. Divorced 6 months ago. Lives across town in a condo near the river. Her social media was a carefully curated gallery of soft girl healing yoga poses, sunset quotes and cappuccinos with captions like, "Energy doesn't lie." I scrolled through her tagged photos, screenshots open beside Stephen's financial statements. In one, she was holding a cocktail at a rooftop bar. The timestamp matched one of Stephen's late work nights. My chest tightened, but I kept scrolling. Because at that point, pain had a purpose. It was fuel. I printed everything, slid it into a binder, labeled it Household Budget Review. If he ever found it, he'd think it was spreadsheets. In a way it was, just not the kind he'd expect. A month later, Dr. Keller asked, "What do you want out of this Riley-proof revenge or freedom?" I thought about it. "I want peace." She nodded. "Then you'll need boundaries. Real ones, not the kind he throws at you." Her voice softened. "Do you have legal support?" "No." She scribbled a name on her notepad, tore off the page, and handed it to me. Alicia Rodriguez, Family Law. That night, I sat at the kitchen table long after the kids went to bed. The binder lay in front of me like a silent witness. Stephen came downstairs loosening his tie. "You're still up?" "Yeah, just organizing bills." "Ugh, you're better at that stuff than me." I almost laughed. The irony was too rich. "You have no idea," I murmured. He kissed my forehead. "You're the responsible one. I don't know what I'd do without you." I met his eyes. I think we're both about to find out. He chuckled, completely missing the meaning, and walked upstairs. I waited until I heard the bedroom door close before dialing the number on Dr. Keller's note. A calm voice answered, "Law Office of Alicia Rodriguez. How may I help you?" I swallowed hard. "Hi. My name's Riley Hartman. I think I need to understand my options." Over the next few weeks, Alicia became my quiet ally. She listened, didn't interrupt, and never once told me I was overreacting. When I showed her the bank records, she frowned. "This isn't just emotional betrayal. It's financial misconduct. He's moving joint funds into personal accounts, using them to support his affair." She looked me straight in the eyes. "We can work with this, but you'll need to stay calm. Don't confront him yet. Let him keep feeling safe. And so I did. I cooked dinner, packed lunches, laughed at jokes that weren't funny. I even told Stephen therapy was helping us. He smiled and said, "See boundaries work." But what I was really learning in therapy was how to build a wall so high even his lies couldn't climb over it. By the time Alicia and I met again, I had everything: credit card statements, deposit histories, photos, screenshots of flirty messages accidentally synced to our family iPad. She skimmed through the binder and whispered almost admiringly, "You've done half my job already." Dr. Keller had been right. Healing sometimes starts with a boundary drawn in court. When I got home that night, Stephen was already asleep. His phone was face down on the nightstand screen, still glowing faintly from a recent text. I stared at it for a moment, then whispered, "Good night, Stephen." But the part of me that still loved him didn't say it out loud. Because love doesn't survive in silence, it suffocates there. The morning I filed for divorce, the sky was painfully blue. One of those days that makes the world look too calm for what's actually happening inside you. Alicia had suggested serving him at work. Public, professional, and fast, she said. He won't have time to twist the story first. I nodded. Quiet fury had replaced fear by then. That afternoon, I sat in my car outside his office, watching people in suits drift past. I wasn't nervous. I was steady, the kind of steady that comes after years of shaking. When Alicia texted, "It's done," I didn't move. I just looked at the building where Stephen was probably standing, papers in hand, face pale. The man who once lectured me about respecting boundaries had just been handed one he couldn't control, a legal one. He came home that night pretending everything was normal, dropped his keys, kissed my cheek, poured a drink. Only when he saw me sitting at the table, calm hands folded, did he stop. "You served me at work," he said flatly. "You're welcome," I said. "I didn't want to interrupt your gym session." He stared at me like I'd spoken another language. "This is insane, Riley. You need help." "Already getting it," I said softly, "from professionals." He slammed the glass down. "You've lost it. You're throwing away 11 years over paranoia." "No, Stephen. I'm throwing away 11 years of pretending you cared." He froze like he didn't know who he was talking to anymore. Then came the shouting accusations about how I was emotionally unstable, how therapy had poisoned me, how I'd always been dramatic. I didn't say a word, just watched, quiet, controlled, documenting with my eyes. When he realized I wouldn't yell back, his rage curdled into something ugly or fear. "You don't have proof," he said finally, his voice trembling just enough to betray him. "I have more than you think." He left that night muttering something about space. I didn't stop him. I just texted Alicia. "He's gone. What next?" She replied, "Stay silent. Let him make the next mistake." 2 days later, he did. His lawyer, Mr. Hutchinson, sent a formal notice demanding 50-50 custody, the house, and alimony. Alicia nearly laughed when she read it. "He's asking for the moon while standing on quicksand." Then she slid a folder across the table toward me. Inside were printed transcripts, copies of Dr. Keller's therapy notes legally requested during discovery. "He subpoenaed your therapy records," Alicia said. "He thinks he can use them to prove you're unstable." "He what?" "Don't worry," she smiled, eyes glinting. It backfired beautifully. Dr. Keller's records painted the full picture, not a broken woman, but a patient processing grief, betrayal, and emotional neglect. Each session documented Stephen's dismissiveness, her advice to me to set boundaries, and my consistent commitment to stability for the kids. And at the bottom of one session note, a line that hit like lightning. "Patient displays remarkable resilience despite spousal gaslighting and emotional abandonment." Alicia tapped the page. "This Riley is gold." That evening, Stephen texted me. "You went too far." Subpoenaing therapy notes. "That's private." I stared at the screen, then typed back, "You started it. I'm just finishing it." He replied a minute later, "You're having some kind of breakdown." "No, I sent it's called clarity." Then I put the phone face down. At our next meeting, Alicia leaned forward. "We're going to file a counterclaim, financial misconduct, emotional cruelty, and hidden debt. We'll use the therapy notes, the bank records, and..." She paused, her eyes sharpening the recordings. I hesitated. "The ones Dr. Keller suggested?" "Yes. Legal in a one-party consent state. Do you have any..." I nodded slowly. "A few." "Good. Start organizing them. The ones that show his tone, not just his words. Judges respond to tone." I spent an entire night listening back, his voice smooth at first, growing colder, crueler, mocking. "You're too sensitive, Riley. You cry over everything. I can't be your emotional support system. Find someone else for that." The irony was so thick I almost laughed, because I had found someone else, and they were helping me dismantle the life he'd built on lies. When the preliminary hearing arrived, Stephen looked smaller somehow. He wore his best suit, but his eyes had that restless panic, the kind that comes when a man realizes the story he's been telling is no longer his to control. Mr. Hutchinson started strong, accusing me of weaponizing therapy, but the judge interrupted. Discussing trauma in therapy isn't weaponization, counselor. It's called healing. Continue. Then Alicia stood calm and surgical. Your Honor. These records show a clear pattern of neglect and emotional manipulation. My client was repeatedly dismissed when seeking support. In response, she sought professional help, the very help her husband told her to get. She paused, letting the silence work for her. The irony is poetic, Your Honor. She found a therapist, and in the process found the truth. Stephen's jaw tightened. He whispered something to his lawyer, but Hutchinson just shook his head, defeated. Alicia leaned toward the judge. With the court's permission, we'd like to introduce audio evidence. I pressed play. Stephen's voice filled the room. Just transfer it from the joint account. She never checks it anyway. Too busy crying about her mom. There was a collective inhale, the kind of silence that hurts your ears. Even the judge looked disgusted. Play it again, he said. When the clip ended, Stephen's mother, who'd come to support him, stood up and quietly walked out of the courtroom. Alicia turned to me and whispered, "That's what truth sounds like, Riley. Ugly, but undeniable." That night, I sat in my car outside the courthouse, hands gripping the steering wheel. I didn't cry. I didn't smile either. I just breathed deep, trembling steady. For the first time in years, I wasn't waiting for Stephen to understand me. I understood myself, and I understood something else too. The boundary he'd mocked, stop trauma dumping, had become a wall he couldn't cross anymore. Because I'd built it with facts, not feelings. The final hearing was set for a Friday morning. I remember because the kids had spirit day at school, mismatched socks, colored hair, and I stood in the hallway brushing glitter out of my daughter's curls, pretending everything was normal. "Mom," she said, "is Dad going to be at the game tonight?" I froze for half a second, then smiled gently. "Not today, sweetheart. He's busy." Busy. That's what I used to say when I didn't want to admit something was broken. After I dropped them off, I sat in my car outside the courthouse, staring at the reflection of the building's glass facade. I could see myself faintly tired, calm, unrecognizable. Alicia met me on the steps. "You ready?" "I've been ready for 3 years," I said. The courtroom smelled faintly of coffee and paperwork. Stephen was already there, sitting beside Mr. Hutchinson, jaw clenched, face pale. He avoided my eyes. When the judge walked in, everyone stood. The gavel struck once, and for a moment, the world went still. Mr. Hutchinson spoke first. "Your Honor, my client wishes to express that this entire proceeding has been blown out of proportion by his wife's emotional instability." Alicia interrupted smoothly, "Correction, ex-wife. And we have extensive evidence disproving that narrative." She placed 3 folders on the desk, one for the judge, one for opposing counsel, one for the court recorder. Inside, she said, are therapy records, financial statements, and legal transcripts, all corroborated by audio recordings and witness testimony. You'll see the timeline of deceit, emotional abuse, and misappropriation of marital funds. Stephen's lawyer muttered something about privacy violations, but the judge waved him off. "Continue, Ms. Rodriguez." The first clip Alicia played was quiet, Stephen's voice, smooth, confident, almost smug. "You don't get it, Riley. I can't carry your sadness anymore. It's exhausting." Then the second. "She'll never know about the transfers. I'll fix it before she checks." The judge looked up sharply. "Those are his words." Alicia nodded. "Yes, Your Honor. Verified by timestamp and consistent with the financial records." Stephen's face drained of color. The final clip was shorter, his voice again bitter, mocking. "She's crying again. Maybe I'll move in with Monica for a while until she figures herself out." I couldn't look at him. I just stared at the table nails digging into my palms until it hurt. Then the judge spoke. "Mr. Hartman, these recordings and financial documents show a disturbing pattern of manipulation and neglect. Your wife's therapy sessions, which you subpoenaed, might I add, indicate emotional resilience and parental consistency, not instability." He turned toward me briefly. "Mrs. Hartman, I commend you for your composure." Stephen's lawyer tried to recover. "Your Honor, my client believes these recordings were taken out of context." The judge cut him off. Out of context of what his conscience. The room fell silent again. When Alicia called me to the stand, I didn't shake. She asked only one question. "Riley, when did you decide to stop trying to fix your marriage?" I looked at Stephen for the first time that morning. "The night he told me I was trauma dumping," I said softly. "That's when I realized he didn't want a partner. He wanted a mirror." Alicia nodded. "And why did you begin recording your conversations?" "Because my therapist told me healing starts with truth, and I needed proof that I wasn't crazy." The judge leaned forward, elbows on the bench. And what did you find? That the truth doesn't need to shout, I said. It just needs to be recorded. By noon it was over. Stephen's lawyer, deflated, whispered to him for a long time before finally standing. Your Honor, my client would like to propose a settlement. Alicia smiled faintly. We're listening. The terms came out in fragments. Riley keeps primary custody of the children. Stephen forfeits claim to the house. No alimony. Each party pays their own legal fees. Alicia added calmly, and we require that Mr. Hartman complete a parental accountability course before any unsupervised visitation. The judge agreed without hesitation. When the gavel struck, Stephen's mother, who had been silent in the back row, stood and walked out again, shaking her head. Monica wasn't there. I didn't expect her to be. Outside, the wind had picked up scattering leaves across the courthouse steps. Alicia handed me the final paperwork. It's done, she said. I nodded, staring at the stamped seal at the bottom of the page. Divorce granted. You okay? Yeah, I said. I think this is the first time I actually am. Alicia smiled softly. You're stronger than you think. I'm stronger than he ever thought, I corrected. That night, after putting the kids to bed, I sat in the quiet living room. The house was half-empty boxes stacked near the wall, reminders of the life I was about to leave behind. My phone buzzed. Stephen. Stephen, I hope you're happy. You destroyed our family. Me, no, Stephen. You did. I just stopped covering for it. He didn't reply. I blocked his number. Then I looked around the living room, the pictures, the furniture, the faint smell of his cologne still lingering. For the first time, it didn't feel like a home. It felt like a crime scene finally cleared. I walked upstairs, checked on the kids, and whispered, it's over. Not like an ending, more like a release. Because the truth wasn't just on record anymore, it was mine. It's strange how quiet freedom sounds. No more doors slamming, no phones buzzing at midnight, no pretending to sleep while a man beside me breathes lies. Just silence and the hum of a new refrigerator in a smaller, warmer home. 3 months after the divorce, the papers were filed, signed, sealed. The kids and I moved into a modest townhouse near my mother's care facility. It's not big, but it's ours. When I open the curtains in the morning, sunlight pours in like it's been waiting for permission. Mom's dementia has gotten worse. Some days she doesn't know my name. Other days she'll look at me and smile and say, "You've grown so much, honey." And even though she thinks I'm still 12, I smile back because maybe in some way she's right. Dr. Keller still sees me once a month. How are you feeling, she asked last week, crossing her legs, pen poised. Lighter, I said, and lonelier sometimes. But not the bad kind of lonely. The kind that feels honest. She smiled that knowing smile of hers. That's healing. It's supposed to feel uncomfortable before it feels real. Then she asked, and Stephen? I exhaled. He's been texting a lot. I handed her my phone. Message after message. I miss the kids. I can't believe you do this to me. We should talk. I'm struggling. Dr. Keller nodded slowly. And how have you responded? I haven't. I forwarded everything to Alicia. Good, she said softly. He's looking for control, not closure. I smiled faintly. Then I guess he's looking in the wrong place. Word travels fast in Stephen's world. Monica left him after her ex-husband's lawyer discovered the financial trail connecting their consulting. Stephen's job found out too. He wasn't fired, but demoted. No more access to the accounts. Poetic justice, really. I didn't celebrate, though. I just let the information pass through me like wind through an open window. That kind of karma doesn't need applause. It just needs time. The kids adjusted better than I expected. Their therapist, Dr. Kim, a soft-spoken woman with kind eyes, told me they're resilient. My son asked me once, Mom, why did Dad say talking about feelings is bad? I took a deep breath, crouched to his level, and said, because sometimes people are afraid of feelings they can't fix. But that doesn't make the feelings wrong. He nodded serious. Dr. Kim says crying means your heart is cleaning itself. She's right, I said. Crying keeps your heart working. He smiled. Then Dad's must be really dirty. I couldn't help but laugh, even though it hurt. A few weeks later, I attended a grief support group, the same kind I'd once dismissed when Dr. Keller suggested it. That's where I met Evan. He wasn't charming or loud or trying to fix anyone, just quiet, honest, a widower who lost his wife 2 years ago. The first night we talked, it wasn't about pain. It was about how strange it feels to live again after surviving something that should have broken you. He asked, what made you come here? A text, I said. A text. Yeah, my ex-husband once told me to stop trauma dumping on him. He blinked, then gave a small, sad smile. And you listened. Eventually, I said, I just didn't realize I'd have to lose him to hear myself again. He nodded, looking down at his hands. Sometimes peace sounds like losing everything you thought mattered. That night, as I drove home, I replayed his words in my head. Peace sounds like loss. Maybe that's true. Maybe it's also what freedom sounds like. A few days later, Stephen tried one last time. He texted, "I'm struggling. Can we talk?" I didn't even hesitate. I forwarded the message to Alicia and blocked the number. The next morning, I told Dr. Keller. "Good," she said. "You honored your boundary." "Yeah," I said, smiling faintly. "He told me to find someone else to talk to, so I did." She laughed softly and found a therapist, a lawyer, and maybe a friend. She tilted her head. "Evan," maybe I said. "But this time I'm not rushing. I'm learning how to listen without disappearing." That weekend, the kids and I painted the living room. Sky blue, their choice. They laughed, spilled paint, made a mess, and for once I didn't care. The air was filled with noise again. Real noise. The kind I'd missed. When we finished, I stood in the center of the room, hands covered in color, and whispered, "We're okay." And I meant it. On my next therapy visit, Dr. Keller asked, "If you could tell the old Riley something, the one who stayed up nights explaining her feelings to someone who wasn't listening, what would you say?" I thought for a moment, then smiled. When someone tells you to stop sharing your feelings, believe them and stop sharing everything else too. Dr. Keller smiled. "That's not bad advice." "It's not advice," I said. "It's a survival plan." I still visit my mom twice a week. We sit by the window of her care home, humming to old songs she half remembers. She doesn't always know who I am, but she always looks peaceful when I hold her hand. That's enough. Because sometimes peace isn't about remembering. It's about finally forgetting the noise that used to drown you. And as I drive home each evening past the city lights, past all the places that used to remind me of him, I realize I'm not haunted anymore.